So, could you please describe your country's education system for us first?
Okay, so in Korea, the school is divided into elementary school, middle school, and high school.
Mhm.
And in elementary school, there's 6 years, and in middle school, 3 years, and high school also has 3 years. And basically, the school system is kind of different from the States, whereas, like, in the States, they try out a lot of different teaching methods. Like, there's um, sometimes they incorporate like games or like PowerPoints and stuff like that. But in Korea, it's mostly based on memorization and straight from the textbook. It doesn't really deviate from that. Like, so everybody learns the same content, so no one really has a head up on that. And then, uh, in terms of like, this is pretty important, but in every area, uh, each school has different rules, but there's really strict rules on clothing or like the way you present yourself as a student. So, um, for example, like for clothes, some schools have a rule where there's like your skirt can't be 10 centimeters above the knee because so many girls go get their uniform shortened and stuff like that because they want to look prettier, I guess. And then like you can't have piercings, you can't get your hair permed or like dye your hair and getting tattoos and stuff like that. And in elementary school, they have homework, but after that, in middle school and high school, they don't give homework anymore. Rather, it's based more on tests and quizzes. And oh, like for college and getting into college, there's the generic way where which everyone uses to get into college is like it's called suneung and it's basically like the entrance exam and it's sort of like the SAT, but you can only take it once a year. And if you don't do well and you don't get into the college of your choice, then you're gonna have to wait a year again. And the topics that come out are generally like languages like Korean and English, and then science and math. And then there's a section where you can choose between social studies or another language like Japanese, and then you get tested on stuff like that. And then it's either that or like there's a thing where the college of your choice can send you like, or you can write an entire like an essay, I guess, and you turn that in, or like you can also have recommendations from your principal and like I guess like sports wise, there's different things too. I think that's about it for the education.
Yeah. And can you talk about the differences between the American system and the education system and the Korean education system? Because I know you studied in these two different kind of schools.
Yeah. So I guess in America, I mean both in Korea and America nowadays, like before Korean schools used to be more strict, I guess, but they're kind of loosened up on that. But it's still far from America because in America, like teachers are really like they're all about like they want to hear about your opinion and like it's all about like the freeness, I guess. Like you can kind of do what you want, but still in Korea, you're expected to like conform to a certain behavior. They want you to be a certain way that they like want you to be, and so I feel like that's different. And in Korea, it's really I mean this is the same in America too, sort of, but they want you to be well rounded, but Koreans like they focus more on education. Whereas like I guess like when you're applying to college in America, they look at what kind of student you are. For example, you can have like your grades and then extracurriculars, like things that you're particularly good at. But Koreans choose to focus more on the grades part and like how you perform on your tests and stuff like that. And in America, I guess that there's like education is important, but you know there's cases where people drop out in high school and don't go to college and like just generally stuff like that. And like it's not that bad. That doesn't mean like they don't have like a future. But in Korea, if you drop out of like middle school, high school, and like you don't finish or like you can't get into college, like like that's pretty serious. People really think that getting a college education is important.
And So, oh, what problem do you think your country's education system has?
I think because having an education is important, and right now, currently, even the students who get into college after they graduate, they have a really hard time getting a job. Though for the ones who don't even go to college, that's practically like you can barely get any jobs, like maybe like a janitor or something like that. But you practically have like no future, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that would be
The
an issue.
biggest
Yeah.
And what's the teacher's role in Korea?
Well, actually, the teachers don't really do that much, I guess. Like, they just teach from the textbook, and that's all the way until maybe your second year, and then like in your third year of high school, right before you take the exam or like try to get into college, they advise you. But even that, there's like an extent because in Korea there's a lot of students in a school, so not the teacher's not going to know every single one of you, and they'll write the same like there's like a kind of like a teacher's recommendation sort of thing on your portfolio, and they just basically write the same thing for everyone, unless you're either really close to the students or like basically your parents have like bribed them or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's your expectation about the changes that the education field has both globally and in Korea?
So like I guess in Korea, one thing that they've been trying to change is like we have okay, so there's like international schools, and that's like basically just for international students, and then they have like a foreign school or like a science school, I guess, but for Korean students, and these are for like the smarter kids, I guess, and basically these are like the top places that you can go to, but then they're trying to get rid of these kind of schools because there's a lot of things going on, and like society is really against it because there's a lot of corruption, I guess, like because there's students a lot of students who get into this kind of school have a lot of money, and so they try to there's a lot of biasm towards them, and even when going to college this becomes an issue because like the ones who generally have more money tend to get in, so that's like a big issue, but they've been trying to get rid of it, but realistically I don't think they can, just because like it's been there for a long time, and you can't just get rid of a school like that because there's still students going there and stuff. So I guess that's what I hoped would change, but I'm not sure that would actually change.